Hello and welcome to the Morningstar series Future Proof. I'm Emma Wall and I'm joined today by Tony Stenning, Head of Retirement for BlackRock. Hi Tony.
Hi Emma.
So simple question, are millennials saving enough for retirement?
That's a great question, Emma. I'm afraid the answer is no. Why is that when 1 in 4 of them, according to our Investor Pulse survey here, suggests that it's an important criteria for them and they should be doing it, and yet half of them are doing absolutely nothing for it. It's really interesting, this, well, it is for me, that we asked a number of people in the country, when should you open a bank account? And they say 10. It's when should you start saving for a pension? Well, 23. If only, I'd suggest, because I'm afraid they're not starting at 23. They're saving for houses. I understand that. They compartmentalise their saving. But unfortunately, they're not using the one thing that they have, which I don't have so much of anymore, and that's time. And you can use that to your benefit. I'm afraid they're just not.
And there seems to be then a disconnect between expectation and reality. And this is not something that just millennials are guilty of. Everybody is guilty of this. Everybody who wants to have a comfortable retirement but then doesn't put away what they need to. So if we have a look at the figures, what are people expecting from their retirement pot and their retirement?
You're absolutely right. This is across every cohort. Approximately about £25,000, roughly, depending on which age group. Millennials slightly more than that, 27,000 is what they'd like to have in retirement. And their expectation of what the pot size will generate that for them, I'm afraid it's way off course. For the average person, they think it's about £204,000. For millennials, £167,000 to give them 27. I'd love that to be the case, and back when interest rates were double digits, that was almost the case. I'm afraid where interest rates are virtually zero, you're nowhere near that. In fact, you're underestimating the kind of pot size by at least £500,000 if you want it index linked, more than that. And that's a big number for people to get their head around. And I think it's because they're not thinking of the liability in the right way. They think, what sort of asset pot size do I need to grow, rather than, you know, I earn an income, that's what I do. When can I get perhaps independent to that income? When can I get to a stage where the money that I've saved pays me and I can start to downsize my job rather than downsize a house?
And so people want about £25,000 a year in retirement. They think they need to save about £200,000 to deliver that. What are people actually saving? What's the average pension pot looking like?
Well, the average pension pot's only about £30,000 in the country today. That hasn't really changed much over the last few years. But then that number itself probably hides a number of things. People have more than one pot. Those millennials are probably going to have 11 jobs during the course of their career. So you need to be able to have a way of consolidating those pensions. Technology is now coming around that and will enable that. The pensions dashboard, I think you need to think a little bit more broadly than just a pensions dashboard, perhaps a retirement dashboard. You know, I save into an ISA as well as a pension, and that is for my long-term savings. So if you can find a way of consolidating and having a view of your balance sheet, I think it just empowers people to make the kind of right decisions. And
what are some simple measures that millennials, that is, by broad definition, people under the age of 35, can do to ensure that they will have the best chance of delivering that £27,000 income in retirement?
So there's some really simple things here. Actually, many of them are saving probably enough to have a reasonable retirement, but they are putting it in the bank. So think longer term. Use that one thing that you absolutely have. As I said earlier, I'll say it again, I've got slightly less of it now, not quite in the millennial camp. But you use that for your benefit. You know, did Einstein say it? Doesn't matter, let's give it to him. The eighth wonder of the world. Use that compounding to your advantage. That really, that time will allow you to navigate any kind of volatility in markets. Secondly, have a plan. You've got to have a plan that will allow you to think longer term, engage with parents, engage with friends, not just advisors, but if you do engage with financial advisors, and actually millennials are more inclined to do that. If you do that, you have less of that cash that I said earlier. You therefore have more invested longer term, and that sets you, well set for the future. So I think it's some really simple things that you can do. You need to decompartmentalise your thinking. Having a plan helps you do that, thinking longer term. And if we can help create an environment where you can have one simple savings pot that's very transparent, that follows you wherever you go, that's just going to help you with that decision.
And pay into that workplace pension, because there's free cash from the government and indeed your employer there as well.
Absolutely, Emma. That's the one thing everyone should do. It's free cash. Now, the government won't like saying that because they're just giving you back your tax. It's free cash. So if you put your £1 in, your employer puts their £1 in, and the government puts their 30p in or 25p or whatever it is, you can get two and a bit times what you do for your £1. So absolutely right. That's the one thing they should definitely do if they do anything else.
Tony, thank you very much.
Thank you, Emma.
This is Emma Wall from Morningstar. Thank you for watching.